In this video, I'm starting a brand new project in my hardcore Minecraft world. We're nearly 700 days into this world, and somehow we still don't have a steady supply of rockets. So the plan is to travel a few hundred blocks away from our island base and start up a giant desert city build where we can hide both a sugarcane and gunpowder farm. This is a build style that I've been wanting to try for quite some time now, so I'm really excited to get started on it. Before we get too carried away though, there is another problem that we really need to solve, which is building an experience farm. I mean, just look at my tools right now, I really don't know how we're supposed to build a mega project under these conditions. Luckily, setting up an Enderman XP farm really shouldn't be too difficult. Hopefully we can just get all the materials we need in our storage room. The first thing we need is 5 stacks of leaves, so let's grab 3 stacks of spruce here and 2 birch leaves. That should be perfect. Next we need a couple of chests, which, sweet, I got a couple right there. We're gonna need a bit of carpet, so let's grab some, sure, we'll just grab some white carpet there, that'll work. Okay, we need a bunch of ladders. Do I have any ladders in here? 19, okay, we'll have to make a bit more. Let's grab some sticks, grab some oak logs here. We'll go boom, 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 boom. Do some ladders, and boom, there, that'll be good. I think we need about 9 stacks of blocks, so let's just grab a bunch of stone here, and we can probably just turn that all into our stone bricks. Heading downstairs, we just need to grab a few redstone components, so let's grab a minecart. We'll need some hoppers, and I think just 1 rail. We're also going to need some water, so let's just head down to our dock here and grab some of that. And we'll also need a bucket of lava, so let's head over to our blacksmith here and head upstairs, as I have a bit of a lava farm up here, so there, perfect. Alright, let's put all of this stuff in a shulker box, and then we can get to work on getting the very last thing that we need, which is a name tag. I think the easiest way to get one is going to be trading with one of our librarians at our villager trading hall, but unfortunately, I think they're all pretty low level, so I'm gonna have to trade with one of these guys and get them leveled up. After getting one of the villagers to the highest level, I was able to trade for a few name tags. With that in hand, I headed over to an anvil and named one of them Steve, which I thought was pretty fitting. That was the last thing that we needed, so I made my way over to the end dimension. We first need to get down to Y level 1, so I used our lava and water buckets to make a cobblestone pillar. Kinda sketchy, but I was able to get down to the very bottom using the water, so I added ladders to the side of the pillar so we can easily get up and down in the future. After that, I began building a bridge further out into the void using leaves. We want to be far enough away from the island so that Enderman can only spawn in the farm. Okay, so we're a little over 100 blocks away from the main island, so we should be good to build the actual farm now. And the next thing we need to do is just build a 5x5 platform at the end of our bridge. We're then just gonna place a chest like that and like that. That's not what I wanted to do. Please don't fall into the void. Oh, I got it back, sweet. Okay, like that, there, perfect. And then we just need to do 4 hoppers going into the chest here. On top of this little collection system, we're gonna place our carpets, and then we need to build a little wall around it using our leaves again. With that in place, we just need to go slab, slab, and this is where we'll eventually be killing all of the Endermen. With the collection system in place, I went on to build 12 rings higher into the sky before eventually building the actual platform where the Endermen will spawn. With the platform in place, the very last thing we have to do is add an endermite, which will attract all the Endermen down this hole, and then the farm will be functional. Our little box is in place, so let's add a minecart, and then we need to use ender pearls to try to get an endermite. We didn't get the endermite with the pearls that I had, so let's just farm a few more and we'll try again. Okay, I just got more pearls, so let's try that again, shall we? There we go, just gotta name this guy. Okay, there we go, Steve, and perfect, he's in the minecart. I don't like that. Let's get out of here. Okay, eat some carrots here. Endermite is in place. Why is he, did you see that? Why is he shaking like that? Chill my guy, it's not that deep. With the endermite in place, we can just break this block here, and the minecart will fall right on top of the iron bar. But now that our endermite's in place, we can just break all of these blocks, and the farm should be fully functional. And then we just gotta open this up, they'll fall right down this hole, and then we can easily kill them with just 1 hit. Down at the bottom, you can see the farm is definitely working. Tons are spawning here, we can easily kill them and get a ton of XP. It feels so nice to have all of our tools and armor fully repaired now. Honestly, building an XP farm has been super long overdue, so I'm super glad we got it built up. Now that all of our tools and armor are fully repaired, I think it's about time we head back home. As nice as it is to have an XP farm now, I have to say it feels a whole lot better to finally be out of the end and back at our house. The first step in building our desert city is going to be a whole lot of terraforming. But before diving into that, I took a moment to brew some fire resistance potions. I then grabbed some wood as well as wool so that we can craft beds, because up next, I want to do some ancient debris mining. My hope is that having a few extra netherite tools on hand will really help speed up the terraforming process. Because when I say we have a lot of terraforming to do, I mean a lot of terraforming. After about 30 minutes of bed mining in the nether, I managed to collect 20 ancient debris, which should be more than enough for now, so I started making my way back to the overworld. Only issue is that I got completely lost like a dummy, and of course I didn't write down my portal codes, so it took me a little while to finally find it. A little embarrassing, but after finally getting back home, I grabbed some diamond tools that we can upgrade to netherite. I actually got these a couple episodes ago when we went end city raiding, so we're finally putting them to use. We of course need to smelt down our ancient debris though, so I put it in our furnaces. While waiting, I quickly went back to the nether and placed a lodestone next to our portal and clicked it with a compass. I've never used this mechanic before, and it even came with an advancement that I didn't even know existed. Back at the house, I renamed it Nether Compass and then placed it in our ender chest. Hopefully this will help us not get lost during future adventures in the nether. The ancient debris was all done smelting at this point, and I ended up having enough to make 5 netherite ingots. After that, I took a second to break down some diamond ore that I had in storage, since we need it to make a few netherite upgrade templates. Just had to make one last pit stop at an anvil to add mending to our shovel. With that taken care of, I upgraded both a pickaxe as well as that shovel to netherite. Pretty awesome that we have 2 brand new tools to terraform with now, plus we still have 3 ingots left over that we can use in the future. I think that's about enough stalling though, so let's finally fly over to the desert and get to work on our new city project. The desert itself is only a few hundred blocks away from our island base, which is pretty nice since I want all of our different civilizations to be close to each other and feel connected. And there's already a village in this area, so it kind of feels like this place was meant to be. I spotted a camel, so I took a second to put him in a hole in the ground. I think it'd be a lot of fun to eventually make him a permanent spot inside of the city. And with Mr. Camel safely contained, I got straight to work terraforming. And I wish I was joking, but this section alone took me 5 hours. And if you don't believe me, I streamed the entire process right here on the channel. It was definitely a grind, but we got through it. While we were terraforming though, we spotted our first desert temple in this world, which was pretty awesome. We almost suffocated and got blown up by a creeper on our way in, which was not nearly as awesome, but at least as our reward we found the dune armor trim template, which I'm very excited about. I'm trying to collect every trim in this world, so we're getting closer and closer to that goal. The terraforming is still only about half done, and both of our shovels are out of durability, so let's go back home and quickly make another one. I first went to the villager trading hall and purchased all of the different enchanted books that we needed. I combined all the books together using an anvil and then added them to a shovel. I was streaming at the time and someone told me to name it Gold Digger, so that's what I went with. Be sure to let me know what we should name the rest of our tools though. After upgrading the shovel to netherite, I went back to the desert and continued the terraforming grind. This time we're focusing mainly on the opposite side of the river, which is a savanna biome, so I started by chopping down all of the trees. Once all of those were taken care of, I got to work smoothing out the landscape. It took me a little over 2 hours, but it's starting to look pretty good. I want to spice up the terrain a bit more with some custom boulders, so back at our base, I went down underground and mined up a bunch of stone. After filling my entire inventory with it, I couldn't help but notice a lot of our tools were looking pretty worn down at this point, so I made a quick pit stop at our new XP farm to fully repair all of our gear. Once again, so glad that we built this thing. With that taken care of, I went back to the desert and built up all of the boulders. All in all, this terraforming combined somehow took close to 10 hours, but the end result looks a whole lot better in my opinion. To celebrate finishing the first stage of the project, I think it's about time to go check in on my cats. My two cats, Munchie and Mittens, are looking extra cute today, and they just wanted to remind you to like the video as it goes a really long way in supporting the channel. Seriously though, thank you so much for the support, it means the world to me. Getting back to Minecraft, let's enjoy some cozy fishing vibes for the very first time in this world. Fittingly, the next thing that I want to do is bring some cats over to the desert so that we can build a creeper farm. After getting a few fish, I bred our cats, Kirby and Asteroid Destroyer, to get a brand new baby kitten. I then got Kirby and the new kitten into a boat and began transporting them down the river and over to the desert. For some reason, I was really paranoid that the lead was going to snap, but we made it over with no issues. We'll continue breeding the cats since we'll need a few more, but in the meantime, let's gather up all the materials we're going to need to build the creeper farm. I began by making a bunch of stone brick slabs, and then I made more trapdoors than I think I've ever crafted at a single time. After that, I went over to a Badlands biome and mined 20 stacks of orange terracotta. My plan is to build the creeper farm inside of a giant pyramid, so I'm collecting all the materials we're going to need to build that too. With that said, I also gathered a ton of red sand, which we can turn into red sandstone. I've never really built with these blocks before, so I'm pretty excited to see how it'll look. Before getting the rest of the materials, I stopped by our cats again and bred them once more. I think we're gonna need 6 of them for the farm, so we're slowly getting there. Back at our base, I put most of the red sandstone into some furnaces so we can get the smooth stone variant. While waiting for it all to smelt, I stripped down a few different types of logs, such as acacia, oak, jungle, and the warped wood from the nether. After that, I grabbed our smooth red sandstone since it was done smelting, and then crafted all of the different bits and bobs that we needed. And the one last thing I forgot about was regular terracotta, so I swung by a mesa and mined up a few stacks of it. After that, I went back to the desert and brought the cats closer to the build site so we're able to keep our eye on them, and then placed down the 5 shulkers that it took to store all of the materials. Judging by the materials alone, I'm starting to think this is a bigger project than I thought it was, so let's not waste any time and get straight to building. I began by putting together the kill chamber as well as the actual entrance to the farm, which I think turned out pretty cool. While I was building, I also took a couple breaks to breed the cats, so we should have enough now. And with the cat situation taken care of, I was finally able to piece together the actual farm. And once it was done, I surrounded the entire thing with a giant pyramid. This thing turned out absolutely awesome. It's a little lonesome right now, but once we build up the rest of the city, I think it's going to be looking pretty cool. I really like the entrance. I especially love this kind of glazed terracotta up here, and just the contrasting colors between the warped wood and the red sandstone looks super sweet. And moment of truth, hopefully we actually have some gunpowder in here. Okay, we have 8 there and 10 there. You know what, honestly, not bad for like 15 minutes. It would be a lot better if we made an AFK platform way up in the sky. We'd get a lot better rates, but we're going to be building a lot in this area, so I think it should just accumulate a decent amount over time. I'm not really the biggest redstone guy ever, but finishing this first farm has me really motivated to build the sugarcane one, so let's get all those materials next. Back at the house once again, I crafted everything that I was able to until I exhausted the supplies in our storage room. After that, I made a trip underground and gathered up a decent amount of andesite, granite, and cobblestone. I feel like I'm always running out of these blocks, so we might need to make a larger quarry at some point in this world. Back at the surface, I crafted the main redstone components for the farm, which consisted of observers, hoppers, and pistons. The last thing to do was grab some sugarcane from the manual farm behind our house. Then we were good to go. I only really foresee myself using paper for rockets, so I didn't go for anything too massive, but I did build a few modules to try to increase the rates of the farm a bit. And if the layout looks a little odd, that's because we're building yet another pyramid to cover this farm too. I built this one at a 45-degree angle, which made things a little weird, but in the end, I think the design turned out pretty awesome. I especially love how the entrance turned out. I even put some looms up there for like a smaller detail. And then the inside is kind of on the basic side, but I do like this kind of floor pattern that I put at the center. And then I lit everything up with the copper bulbs, which looks pretty nice. And then everything is all connected up with hoppers and then just comes right into this output chest, so we can easily just grab the sugarcane and then we're good to go. But with that said, I think it's about time to get to work on gathering up a bunch of the materials to build the actual city. Back at our island once again, I harvested both of our wheat farms and then combined the wheat with some mud I had in storage to make a few stacks of packed mud. After that, I spent some time growing and chopping down large red mushrooms. The red color is a little crazy, but I think we can use the inside texture of the mushroom blocks to create some neat looking pathways. The next material I was after was rooted dirt, and the easiest way I know how to get a lot of it is to dig underneath a naturally generated azalea tree, so I flew around until I found one. Took me nearly 15 minutes to spot one, which is definitely the longest it's ever taken, but oh well, at least we finally have what we were looking for. I excavated the entire thing, which resulted in about 9 stacks of rooted dirt, which should be more than enough, so I made my way back home. Surprisingly, I'm completely out of dirt after all the terraforming we did, so I went down underground and spent a couple minutes digging some up. Afterwards, I did something absolutely insane and touched grass. And by that, I mean I made shortgrass with bone meal and then harvested it with my shears. While I was at it, I also made a bunch of the new dry grass, and I got both of the short and tall versions, so we should be good to go. We're kinda jumping all over the place, but I went underground again since we needed to mine up several stacks of granite blocks. I took a trip over to our barn next and dyed some of the sheep yellow and gray. And of course, I gathered the wool using our super duper fancy shears. I think it'd be fun to incorporate some cherry wood into the city, so I chopped down some of the cherry blossom trees. And I'm pretty sure azalea leaves are the only leaf type that doesn't lose their color in the desert, so I harvested some of those while I was still in tree chopping mode. Unfortunately, I really don't have a whole lot of shulker boxes, so in between material gathering, I had to swing by the desert and unload the items into chests to clear up space. Not the most annoying thing ever, but we should go end city raiding again or build a shulker farm sometime. At least while we were in the desert, I could easily cross another material off the list, and that is sandstone. This is also a super satisfying one to gather since we can insta-mine it. Anyway, let's continue the grind by heading into the nether and over to a warped forest, since the next block we need is stripped warped hyphae. I think it'll make a great accent color for some of the desert city houses. Back in the overworld, I chopped down large brown mushrooms. We already have a lot of the red ones from earlier, but we're gonna need some of these ones too. After that, I went over to a birch forest and cut down a ton of trees, stripping them along the way to save us time later. And I repeated the exact same process for both oak trees as well as jungle trees. We made a bit of packed mud earlier, but it looks like we're actually going to need quite a bit more than I thought, so let's head over to a mangrove swamp and dig up more mud. This stuff is pretty fast to gather, which is pretty nice, but the actual difficult part is going to be getting enough wheat to combine with it. Our manual wheat farms just aren't going to cut it, so I spent a few minutes setting up an automated one. It works great, but the only problem is that it ate through my entire supply of bone meal in like 30 seconds. It's slightly dangerous, but let's head into the nether, over to a soul sand valley, and mine up all the bone blocks that we can find. I ended up getting about 5 stacks of bone blocks, which is pretty good, so I went back home and ran the wheat farm once again, finally getting the last of the wheat that we needed. I then used it to craft more packed mud, which I turned into mud bricks. You might not believe me, but it took 8 hours to get all of these resources, easily the biggest material grind of this entire series yet. And this isn't even all of it, there's a bunch more chests out in the actual desert that also have a ton of materials in them. My plan is for the city to extend to both sides of the river, so first things first, let's connect the 2 sides with a bridge so we can easily traverse the area. And if I'm remembering correctly, all of our bridge materials should be right in here, so let's get straight to building. I went with a block palette of granite, packed mud, and rooted dirt for the frame, and then used birch for the actual walking surface. I also built it on a slight diagonal, which helped make the shape more eye-catching, plus I think it fits the landscape better. The bridge is looking pretty sweet now, but there's just one quick thing that I want to do before I forget, and that's extend these pillars all the way down to the river bottom, just so that it looks a little bit more realistic. And I think it'd be best if we use a lot of mossy cobblestone, just so that it kind of looks like maybe algae is growing on the side of the pillars, since they are in the water. Already this area is starting to look so much cooler with the bridge here and the pyramids in the background, but I think next, let's start building up some houses in this region here to really get started on that desert city vibe. My idea is that the houses on this side of the river are owned by wealthier people, so I went for a clean look using a lot of sandstone with a bright orange accent wrapping around the entire build. It It looks a little lonely right now, but once we build up some other houses around it and have some pathways and stuff, I think it's going to be looking pretty sweet. I did just want to add a couple final details to this one though, which is a small little hay bale here, which we'll do with some hay bales, of course, and some bamboo slabs, which is looking pretty nice. And then at the back of the house, I want to use the resin clump for the very first time, just on some of these leaves to look like maybe some berries or something kind of growing on them, which is actually looking pretty cool, and it complements the orange accent pretty nicely. I'm really happy with how the first house turned out, so I wasted no time at all and got straight to work on the next one. I went for a very similar block palette, but changed up the shape and details to give it its own unique look. And now that we have two houses in, you can hopefully see what my vision for this area is a little bit better. And for a lot of these houses, I'm adding these kind of rooftop gardens, which I think look pretty sweet. And there was just one final detail that I wanted to add to this one, which was a couple of these glowberries, which we can just stop from growing using our shears here. But it's pretty cozy vibes up here, and you can imagine once we have a bunch of rooftop gardens, it's going to be looking pretty sick. Feeling super motivated, I continued building and made 4 more houses to expand this district of the city. Each house, while quite similar to each other, is also completely unique and has its own fun little details to explore. I also started adding some blue accents to a few of the houses, which contrasts the orange and makes the entire area pop. I'm really happy with how this area is shaping up. My only issue right now though is that everything feels just a little bit disconnected. So let's fix that by connecting up all of the houses with a brand new pathway. All we have to do is just dig out the ground to make room for it. Once the area for the pathway was all dug out, I got straight to work placing it in. And for the block palette, I used a tiny bit of coarse dirt on the edges, and then filled in the rest with packed mud, granite, and a little bit of brown mushroom blocks. I feel like I say this every time that I build a path, but it seriously goes such a long way in making your builds feel more immersive. But you've probably noticed that I left a bit of a hole down here, and that's because I want to build a kind of like fountain of sorts, I guess, where we can use some of the really colorful glazed terracotta. Nice and colorful, I think it contrasts nice, the kind of blue in the center and the yellow on the outside. And then for a nice fancy look, let's surround the entire thing with alternating stone brick stairs and regular stairs. Okay, yeah, I think that's looking pretty nice, so let's just finish it off by filling in the entire thing with water. All filled in, and I think it's looking pretty sweet. Definitely makes a nice little centerpiece for this little district inside of the city. Another fun detail I thought we could add to this part of the city was an actual well, so I built one using tuff and spruce wood. Just gotta finish filling it in with some water, and it should be looking pretty good. For even more detail, let's build some small boulders using stone and andesite, so we can do a couple slabs like that and like that. And then we'll kind of blend it into the environment using some short grass as well as regular grass. It's a small little detail, but it really does help add just a little something to the environment and adds a little bit of visual interest. For example, this area here is also looking kind of basic, so let's build another one just like this. And we'll do dry grass, and instantly the area looks way more interesting. So let's just continue going around this entire part of the city, just adding short grass and small boulders and whatnot to really make the area feel more lived in and realistic. Also, I am in the water. I eventually want to continue expanding this part of the desert city, but for now, just to make things a bit more enclosed, let's surround the entire thing with a bunch of acacia trees. I planted quite a few, and while we wait for them all to grow, let's go get started on the next phase of our city. There's still quite a bit of open space on this side of the river, so I extended the path over to it to make room for some new builds. The first thing I want to make is a giant wheat field, so I started by placing in all of the water sources. Once those were in place, I covered them all with dark oak slabs with a wall and lantern on top. The next step was to till all the ground, and instead of making one giant patch of farmland, I went with a bunch of neat rows, which I think looks way more satisfying. And with the ground all tilled, I got to work planting all the wheat seeds. To bring more life to the area around the farmland, I used both types of dry grass, regular and tall, along with a few extra decorations to give the space a more natural, lived-in feel. And because my texture variation addiction is still very much in full force, I couldn't help but add some andesite into some of the boulders. But with that, I think the farmland is done. The dry grass will look way more in place once the wheat actually grows up all the way, But while we're waiting for that, we might as well get started on building a stable here, as I think it'll make a great addition to our farmland. I made it on a diagonal, which was a little tricky, but overall I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. For some final details, I just want to add a lantern in front of each of the stalls just to make the area a little bit safer. And then I think we can build a water trough right here using some spruce stairs. And then we'll do some trapdoors like that. We'll do 4 more just like so, and then a couple more on this side as well. And we should be able to just fill in the entire thing with some water, and it should make the perfect little detail to accompany our stable. But now that this is done, let's finally go grab our camel and give him a permanent home inside of the city. I definitely feel pretty bad for this guy. He has for sure been down here for way over 100 days at this point. Okay, let's try to ride this guy. He's pretty slow, but I think we can... Yeah, okay. This is cool. Yeah, I've never ridden a camel before. This is actually pretty awesome. I'm liking this. Can he jump? Yeah, whoa. Okay, that's crazy. Okay, let's try that again though. That was cool. Jeez. Okay, as you can see, I had to come up with a pretty weird gate design. Even though there is a gap here, we shouldn't be able to actually go through like this. Yeah, see, he gets stuck. But if we hop off here, open these gates just like that, hop back on our camel here, should be able to come right through. Yes, perfect. And then, no, stay. Okay, are we good? We're good. Sweet, we now have a camel in our world. Hey, look at that, he's laying down. That is so cool. That is so awesome. We'll have to find another camel, but for now, I'm at least glad that he's out of the hole. That is absolutely awesome. I'm super glad our camel has a proper spot inside of the city, but let's not get too distracted as I still have a ton of houses that I want to build on this side of the river. Jumping straight into it, I stuck with shapes similar to the ones we built earlier, but completely changed up the block palette. This time going with more brownish tones like mud bricks, granite, and jungle wood. The main reason for the switch was to help these builds stand out better against the sand. Already this area is really starting to come to life. The houses themselves are all pretty monotone, but I did try to add little pops of color to make them more interesting and just give them all their kind of own unique character. Continuing with the same build style, I went on to build 8 more houses to really expand this region of the city. As I mentioned a little while ago, the houses on the other side of the river are meant for wealthier people, so these new ones that we're making, I'm putting a lot closer together to sort of look like a middle class type of area, but I actually really like this since it creates a lot of cozy alleyways that we can fill with tiny little details. I am seriously loving how this is starting to shape up. It's looking absolutely awesome, and we don't even have the pathways in yet or any of the other smaller details. I let all the villagers outside of that hole, so I'm just putting beds inside of all of the houses so that hopefully they don't wander too far. Put the last 2 beds in here, and that should be good. But now that all the houses are in place, let's start digging out the ground to make room for a giant pathway to connect all of the different houses. Alrighty, the area for the pathway is all dug out now. It's looking pretty weird because I have all these temporary blocks that I had to place down earlier when we were doing terraforming. But anyways, for the actual path itself, I'm trying to make it look like the sand has sort of washed over it. So I'm using oak on the edges with some birch as well. And then for a kind of secret texture that you might not know is in the game, if you place down mushroom blocks like this, place them on top, and then break these, you get this really neat texture, which I think blends in perfectly. With that block palette figured out, I went around the entire city, building the pathway to get everything connected up. Just like that, this new region of the city is feeling so much more connected. And to take it one step further, I want to use some of the dry grass alongside dead bushes to just kind of detail some of these open sandy areas and get the whole area looking more natural. And another detail I want to incorporate is using some slabs to sort of smooth out some of these sandy areas. So maybe something like that I think looks pretty good. And let's just combine those 2 techniques of the slabs and the different vegetation blocks to really detail the whole city and get things looking as natural and put together as possible. It's subtle, but I really think it does help quite a bit in filling out those empty patches, so glad we took the time to do that. And considering this is a desert, these guys are definitely gonna need a well, so let's quickly build one up right here. We'll just do mud bricks at the bottom, a couple of spruce fences for the supports, and then we'll make a simple cover, again using our spruce stairs. And then of course we just need to add our actual water, just like that, and perfect, done. I've also been looking for an excuse to use the new cactus flower since it's super pretty, and I think this area will work out pretty nicely for us. Okay, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Also adds some very much needed color into the area, so pretty happy with that. Back at our base real quick, let's craft some maps. So we'll need some compasses first, turn that into our maps, and we'll also need some item frames. And let's also take a quick trip into the Nether, as I want a bit of glowstone, and this right here should be more than enough. And you might have already guessed, but I want to make a giant map of our desert city. So let's start revealing these. I eventually want to make a proper map room inside of the city, but for now, let's just use this house. All this is just a way for us to track our progress as we continue to expand the desert city. I'm really excited to keep expanding it further down the river, and eventually I want to connect some sort of pathway or something over to the island so that all of our different civilizations are connected. But let's not stare at the map all day, as I want to tour everything that we built this episode. And I'm also really curious to see how much gunpowder is in here. Okay, 45 and 55. Really not that great. I guess this farm works better with the AFK platform, so I'll have to do that sometime. But anyway, these houses all turned out super cool. They're really atmospheric, especially with all these rooftop gardens and everything. Just like kind of looking across, I really love, especially with these colorful canopies. Really nice. Also, these pyramids complement each other really well and just made such a nice backdrop to the city, so really glad that we hid the farms inside of them. Hopefully this farm is working a little bit better. Okay, pretty much half a double chest. Honestly, not that bad. It's actually going up right now. Should be enough to at least make a decent amount of rockets. I really like these towers that I added to a few of the houses. They just kind of helped break up the shapes and also added a bit of height variation to the houses, which I think helps a lot. But overall, all these houses coming together like this just made such like a dense and fun atmosphere to walk through, especially with having a few of the villagers walking around. Definitely makes it feel a lot more lived in. I really like how this bridge came out, and I think it was fun kind of having the city expand to both sides of the river, and having like a tiny bit of lore with trying to make this sort of like the upper class district, and that side over there more like the dense lower class district. My favorite thing about these houses is definitely the blue and the orange highlights. Really added a lot to kind of like the theme and the style of this area. Just makes it feel all kind of cohesive, which I really enjoy. We of course have our farming district, which turned out super sick. I think it took like 20 stacks of seeds to fill the entire thing in, so it is pretty big. And next to that, we have our stable. Our little camel guy is straight chilling right now, but be sure to let me know if you have any name ideas for this guy. I'm really excited to keep expanding the desert city though, as this is such a cool project that I think we can make a few fun episodes out of for sure. So be sure to let me know if you have any cool build ideas that we can add to it. And if you want to explore this world for yourself, you can either get the world to download on my Patreon or by becoming a member on my YouTube channel. As always, thank you so much for watching, and happy building.